I didn't realize it when I was growing up, but there aren't that many one-man bands in the world, and it's a kind of unusual occupation. My dad, he spent 4.5 years in prison on a marijuana trafficking charge in the 50s. But he always swore that he was framed and that he was never a drug trafficker. He was, however, studying for his master's degree, and his thesis was on the emerging counterculture and its connection with marijuana. So he had a real strong interest in medicinal uses of marijuana back then and why it had become criminalized. So when he was in prison, he shared a cell with a man named Wilfred Woodley, who was a black blues musician. And Wilfred was doing a correspondence course from the Berklee School of Music. And my dad had always wanted to be a musician, and his parents, well, he grew up during the war, and then his parents wanted him to learn classical piano, which my dad was a bit of a rebel. He wanted to learn the accordion. So he studied with Wilfred's books and then started a prison band. And when he got out of prison, he moved to Oakland, California, and met Jesse Fuller working in a shoe shining shop. Jesse Fuller had been popular, I believe, in the 20s and 30s as a blues musician, and then he had fallen out of favor and was working in a shoe shining shop and buying his albums from the record label and selling them out of the shop. And my dad and a few other people convinced him that he had to get back on the road. And my dad toured with him a little bit as a driver, manager, something like that. And Jesse was a one-man band. And Jesse had designed this whole rig that you can find it online. He's amazing. He wrote San Francisco Bay Blues, which Eric Clapton covered for his Unplugged album. So Jesse was my dad's inspiration for being a one-man band. And when my dad finally was settled with my mom and had the kids, he wanted to get going on his one-man band career. So he slowly built up this incredible rig that I still can't believe that now looking back on it. I mean, when I was a kid, it just seemed completely normal. But when I look at it, I think this is quite something.
I have an official title, and my official title is Dan the Man, the One-Man Band, and his magical music machine. I used to take my money in a tambourine on the ground, play my squeeze box, tap my foot on the tambourine, and the money would come, people would throw coins down there. And an old boy came by and he said, "You know, that tambourine is moving away from you as you tap it. Why don't you put a wire over the toe?" He says, "I used to do that when I played the banjo on the street. Put a wire over it, stick your toe under it, and then it won't wander away from you." And of course, that was a slippery slope. Later on, I added a harmonica. The rest is history. In many ways, it's like joining a religious cult. It takes your entire life, and you are devoted to it. And I've met people who if they could, they would. So I know I'm not alone. But in any one year, all over the world, there's probably only a limited number of people who do the one-man band. So it's not everybody's cup of tea.
Having grown up with a father who was a touring one-man band, and I learned how to be a touring musician on the road with my dad, and I learned how to be self-sufficient and to gather a crowd, to engage, to be funny. He was really, really funny. He never took himself very seriously. He never really thought he was a good musician. And I think he had a ton of character and soul. And while he might not have been technically great, he was one of a kind. So I'm really grateful that I had him as a role model.